is that good?
Yeah. Here, you can win live.
We'll do that. All right, and we are live for round 2 here at GoBlackCon conference in sunny California. I hope you guys enjoyed our first round of interviews. I believe the video is back. One of the interviews we decided to temporarily cut out just to do some fact checking on what's going on with that situation. We are trying to bring you, real projects, and there was a few questionable statements. So once we sort all that out, we'll try to post that video back up. We'll see which YouTube channel it goes on, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted. I think it was good content, so it will show up eventually somewhere, and hopefully very, very soon, just after a little fact checking. All right, so we're going to try and bring you more guests. I don't think we ever finished the scaling discussion.
Nope.
If we don't have anyone to come up in this chair this moment, we can quickly finish up the scaling discussion. So, Jimmy.
You never commented on Bitcoin Gold either, Tom.
Right. So you guys actually think that the Bitcoin Gold is going to be worth something. I don't know what the latest projections are for Bitcoin Gold, which is happening in 2 weeks?
No, so they're going to hard fork from a block sometime on October 25th, but the thing is they're not going to build on top of it until early November. So they're sort of freezing the blockchain as of October 25th, and then they'll build on top of it later on. And
what does that mean, build on top?
Yeah, when will we be able to get our sell our coins?
It'll be afterwards. So so they're freezing it. So you can freeze the blockchain at any time, right? You can say block number X. I'm going to hard fork from there, and that's what they're planning to do. And that way, I think they can test it for like a week or whatever.
So at what point do you think people will be able to sell their B Gold for Bitcoin?
So sometime in November, early November.
See, that's a problem, and I'll tell you why that's a problem.
What's that?
Because that means there was like this month period. Let's say I'm gonna say a
2
month,
weeks,
2 week period, right? But during that period, you as a Bitcoin holder have to remember which private key your Bitcoin was in on the 25th, and then 2 weeks later you got to go back to those private keys.
Yep.
So you have to plan on the 26th for a day in the future, and then there's going to be God knows how many people that are gonna like remember a week or two later and like, oh man, so which private keys was it? I think this is a disaster in the making.
Well, obviously it's not going to be easy. But if you're a holder, then it doesn't really matter. But that's how they've chosen to do it. There's rumors of like a death tax that's up to about 1% of the 21 million forever. So that's a 210,000 Bitcoin Gold. So that's a significant amount. But they want to keep the 21 million limit, so it's unclear exactly how that's going to work. They might advance the block number by a certain amount or something. We don't know.
Well, I was going to say too, Tone, and Jimmy mentioned already, for holders, it's really not a big problem because they usually keep most of their coin in in a Trezor or in a Harbor wallet, something like that. It doesn't seem too difficult for people who are just holding. To be able to
I mean, it won't be a disaster per se. It'll be annoying.
Let's talk about another situation, right? So for the Bcash thing, right? Like the Bcash was actually like I was making fun of it, but in reality, they had real miners on their side. They had prominent people like Rick Falkwing, Roger Ver, I mean even fake Satoshi. Like, I mean, people with followers, right? So there was, and a bunch of, fanatics following all of them, right? So I believe for that hard fork, there was a responsibility from the major companies like Coinbase, who screwed up, like Trezor, who screwed up for a couple of days, like Ledger, like all of these other things to give people their hard fork coins. Responsibility is for this B Gold fork that does not have the same kind of community support, as misguided as the community was for Bcash, right? But I don't even know who the developer is. I don't know which miners they have on their side. Like, what is the responsibility from Trezor, Ledger, Coinbase to devote money and developers to give people their B Gold? Like, I don't know.
And is there enough time? I mean, did they give everybody enough time?
No, I mean, well, we don't know what their hard forking protection is, so it's hard for anyone to code against anything right now. But there is that fiduciary duty. If somebody possesses your Bitcoins, you your Bitcoin Gold, they're gonna get.
I mean, somebody can be hard forking Bitcoin every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not have it may be literally impossible for you to split a day for users because this guy wants, like, what if someone does Bitcoin Silver the next day?
Yeah.
Like, what is the responsibility?
This is the problem with taking possession of a digital asset that might change. And like the only real solution where you take you don't take possession of coins and you do atomic swaps through Lightning or through whatever, and all the exchange provides is an order book. That's ultimately the right solution. But until then, fiduciary duty can be totally hacked.
And again, we're not going to see new forks every day just yet, but I do believe that might be coming next year in 2018.
Well, no, it's not.
Especially if these are successful.
Yeah. Right. Even if they're not successful, right? It's an attack vector.
It is.
On Trezor. It's an attack vector on all.
Not on Trezor. Not on Trezor. It's an attack vector on exchanges.
That's
where all the pressure lies.
It's also an attack vector on Trezor, right? Because if they have to stress
the hardware wallets,
to provide people with a hard fork, they can screw up and accidentally do something really, really bad.
Wallets and exchanges.
People actually lose their Bitcoin.
And at some point they might say, you know what, we're not going to support anymore. Or they can make a generalized solution and say, okay, well, hard fork parameters, and then you'll get them. Like
an automated, they're going to have to automate it somehow.
You're going to have to automate it. The program, software eats the world. This is what it means. You got to do it. So.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's bring on a guest, and then maybe we'll after the guest we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the next hard fork. And maybe by the time we're done, there'll be a third hard fork in the making sometime for December. All right, so Joseph, why don't you come on up? Grab the seat
Joseph.
right here next to Vortex.
All right.
There you go, Joseph.
And you know what? I'll let you introduce yourself, but people would have seen. Yeah, the camera's right there. People would have seen you helping Thomas sponsor. You were the sponsor. They got Thomas to Prague to cover the Hackers Congress event. We had a nice press wall behind us. We got the different scenery today. So go ahead, Joseph, once again, introduce yourself and what do you do in the space?
So those of you who have been following WCN for the past week, you probably know who I am already. Maybe there's no need to introduce me again. But anyway, I'll introduce myself. I'm with Crypto HW Wallet. That's we're a hardware wallets crypto store. We pitch ourselves as the crypto hardware wallet superstore because we carry all 4 brands that are currently available on the bitcoin.org as being certified hardware wallets. And as well as we are specialized in hardware wallet leather cases. The idea came about was when I first had the chance to use the first Ledger Blue, which is really nice device and expensive. It's big. It's like a handheld set, like a cell phone. But it was the edges were sharp. It was bulky, and then I knew the screen was probably fragile if you had slipped through your hand. So the idea came about. So I need to have a really nice case cover to protect it. That's going to provide you a really comfortable feeling. So the idea came about. So I started to make the first leather case for Ledger Blue, and then I realized the other 2, which is the Kiki and Trezor, also could have a piece of clothing that's leather. So we made those 3 currently available through our website as well as some marketplaces. And we're also looking for resellers, as I've mentioned, in all parts of the world. We try to bring resellers to help resell these products to their local communities, to the crypto currency holders that are using hardware wallet. We don't want to have this just one distribution center here in the US where people from Europe that want to buy, they have to pay a hefty shipping because this boundary that we have to pay like almost $30 with DHL. We don't want people in those areas that want this product that can't get it. So we're actively looking for resellers. Hopefully some of you guys out there know a reseller in the crypto space or are interested in becoming a reseller for our products. Welcome you guys on board.
All right. Cool. And you were a sponsor here at the event as well. You gave away 50 hardware wallets?
Supposedly 50 per day. Yesterday, because the conference was delayed, so we didn't get a chance to give away anything. So we're trying to give away today. 100. So
So
two.
you're giving away 100 hardware wallets.
Yes, yes.
Like a little bit of each, like some Trezors, some Ledgers.
Yes,
These are
honestly,
multi-$100 devices, right? At this point.
altogether, I tallied it's probably a few, $3,000-4,000.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
That's amazing.
And you know, hardware wallets are just so important for like
Absolutely.
controlling your own keys,
Yes.
and this is the only sure way that you're going to get all of the
Especially in
forks
the
and
age
stuff
of
like that.
forks.
Yeah,
In the age of forks, Jimmy.
And what are we using? I know you use a Trezor.
I do.
And a Ledger as well, or just a Trezor?
I have a ledger that I've been playing with. I haven't played with it too much. I have some
Right.
Bitcoin on there. I'm gonna move it around and try
So
stuff.
I
but-
have Bitcoin on a Trezor as well. I have a Ledger on my desk at home. I haven't yet opened it. And on my trip, I got my hands on a digital beatbox. So I'll probably split my coins between all three of those.
Yeah, the nice thing about the Trezor, by the way, is that you can use all SegWit addresses, and those are like super cheap to transact on. Like 1 Satoshi per byte or something like that, and you'll get it through on any weekend day. A lot of there's more space. Again, SegWit is block size increase. I don't know why people don't know that. And these are the transactions that you get to put in.
Wait. So speaking of SegWit being a block size increase, did you see Zappo's blog post from yesterday? Did you read that?
About 2x, is that
right?
the,
Right,
yeah.
but they specifically said if there are 1 megabyte blocks in mind after the hard fork, we will label that as like another coin. So have bigger blocks.
Well, so I think their block calculation is on non-upgraded nodes. What blocks go there, not the upgraded nodes, which is what you should be counting.
Get Joseph's opinion on the upcoming.
On the hard forks?
Is that good for your business?
Yeah. This affects the hardware wallets that you sell, right? So everybody needs a hardware wallet to really take advantage of these forks. So how is that really has it been affecting your business?
Oh, absolutely. When people were panicking right before August 1st, we had a tremendous amount of requests, actually even phone calls, live phone calls. Oh, I need to get my Bitcoins off the exchange. I need to get it off because it's going to fork. So during that time, there was already a shortage of wallets. And then plus this panic.
And you didn't mark up your prices when that happened, which is kind of crazy.
We didn't.
It's great for the community.
And what's your personal opinion? Obviously, disruption and hard forks are business. But do you want these hard forks even though it's good for your business? Or like, what's your personal opinion? On record saying like he wants these hard forks because it's good for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's good for Bitcoin.
I'm starting to slowly come around to that view.
Bitcoin's anti-fragility.
But you as a businessman, are you going to be out there shilling every attempt at disrupting Bitcoin because it's good for your business? Because clearly some other CEOs, Shapeshift, are clearly doing that.
I think the last fork that we had should have been happy because they get at least an extra 10% of Bitcoins. You probably turn your BCH already into BTC.
Oh, I did it the first chance
I know you're totally against a hard fork, but this is an open source project. All the communities, you can't force everybody to believe in one idea. So if there's a camp that wants to fork it, Bitcoin Gold or whatever you want to fork it, now the ICOs are banning, so they want to take advantage of this forking. That's up to them. If there's enough resources behind them, they're able to garnish enough miners to let them do it.
More power to them.
Yes. From my business point of view, there are more tokens available. It could be a potential need for hardware wallet, and then that could be extra opportunities for me to sell more hardware wallets. A lot of people don't know that Trezor has an extra function. It's called password management.
Yeah.
It's a Chrome plugin that you can use for your daily.
That's awesome. It's kind of like YubiKey a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
YubiKey is like a U2F, universal second factor. But this is actually, you can manage all your password with ease. At first setup, you put in your username and password. After that, and then all your password can be managed. You can label it.
I might start using that.
What other little tips that you have about the hardware wallets that the average user, like even Jimmy, didn't know? Like what other useful tips do you know about any of these?
I like the secret wallet function.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
I think the basic thing a lot of people are not taking it seriously is at the first setup, they didn't take seriously on the seed. They didn't carefully duplicate or store it in multiple places, different copies. When that happens, when they realize their hardware wallet is either lost, stolen, they need to recover, they're in panic. Very important when you're using a hardware wallet, because you bear the complete 100% of the responsibility when you take that control. And nobody knows that seed that you generated, only you know. And you should be very, very careful.
And you put tamper evidence stickers to close up the what you write down the piece of paper with.
Exactly.
So in case somebody tries to, or that's just good security practice.
Yes.
Tip for you guys.
You can, and that's extremely important, because
I wonder why Trezor doesn't give you tamper evidence stickers along with those little booklets where you write down the words. But
I think the first batch of Trezor, I believe they did. It actually was very transparent. It was telling you from 1 to 24. They even listed out. But I thought it was kind of I mean, for newer people, it was okay. But for someone with a little extra thought, that would be too transparent for the bad actors. If they ever see that, they would know that they can probably use it to recover. So I never used that sheet. That sheet given to me, I just throw it away.
Yeah, I didn't use it either.
I just used any piece of paper
sheet away as well.
Or I even embedded in an article that with some paragraph that I know which one are the orders. I can play a little trick.
Yeah, I usually just I write it down and then I seal it with tamper evidence stickers. But anyway.
All right, so we got more airplanes. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you for sponsoring the conference.
Yeah. Go buy.
Going to 10,000 next year. That's what
That's right. 10,000. You heard it from Joseph.
Buy some.
All right. So let's pick up the discussion until we get someone else to interview. Let's pick up the discussion on the hard fork coming up in November. I believe the latest estimate is November 18.
Yep.
And okay, so here's how I see it right now. A lot of the companies, their view is whichever chain has the most hashing power is the real Bitcoin. Is that how you see it, Jimmy?
No.
How do you see it, Jimmy? How do you see it?
I see it as, I mean, you can call whatever you want Bitcoin. I think that's everyone's individual right. But I mean, I don't have to listen to what Zappo says or Shapeshift says or whatever, or even what Bitfinex says, or
especially if you run your own node, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get to decide. I'm the ultimate arbiter of which one is Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned, and that's the way it should be. You're the user. You're ultimately sovereign over your own node, and
that's how it should be.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
I'm with Jimmy on this pretty much. I mean, I don't think that hash power even comes close to deciding what Bitcoin is, because if we go down that route, that is a very slippery slope. You start to let these corporations come in, and now they're going to get their own dev team, and now they own the whole thing. I mean, Tone has warned about this with Roger Ver, where he's trying to own the entire space. He's trying to own the exchanges. He's trying to own, the currency. He's trying to own the website. He's trying to own it all, right? So this is something that I don't think the community is going to take lying down.
So what do we do?
What do we do with what?
How do we protect ourselves?
From 2x?
Yes.
I don't think we need to do anything. If you hold, you're okay.
If you hold, you're good. As always, if you hold your coins, you are good, especially in a hardware wallet. You pretty much want to sit that day out. If you are transacting, you're going to have to be careful, because there will be warnings on websites that tell you we're going to be shutting down services again, right? Just like for Bitcoin.
Okay, guys, it's not that simple, right?
Okay.
Like, I own my coins with a phone wallet, like an Airbitz, like a green address.
Sure.
But I need to still make sure that I am routing them through my own node, right? Because if I let the wallet run through the node, I don't know which node I'm using, especially without replay protection.
Full node.
So you have to run your own full node. You have to download 0.15, and you have to set that into your SPV wallet.
Yeah, and that's a very easy way to find out. Well, the thing about 2x is anything that doesn't upgrade is going to follow the core chain,
right?
And anything that does upgrade will go to the 2x chain. So if you do nothing, it'll just by default go to the core chain. So I think that it's okay or fair to say that that's sort of what will probably have the advantage going forward.
But of course, users aren't going to understand any of this, and they're going to send their
well, I'm not so sure about that. We always sort of like mythically, we always try to protect Bitcoin from the mythical novice or whatever.
Right.
But I think this is wealth we're talking about, money we're talking about. Most people know what we don't know.
Well,
right?
I guess as long as we have the interfaces, right?
Uh-huh.
As long as the exchanges provide a clear interface, because with BitPay, what we've seen from BitPay,
Uh-huh.
them putting Bitcoin Cash right next to Bitcoin, that's going to confuse any user.
I don't really use it for a medium of exchange, and I don't think most noobs do either. So I mean,
true.
If it's a store of value thing, I think that's for me the biggest and most important property of Bitcoin. Everything else is just sort of.
Well, let me ask you this, Jeremy. What do you think about the Bitfinex creating this futures market? What do you think about this futures market, and what do you think about 2x actually trading, this low, only like 0.2 of Bitcoin? Is that going to be telling us what the price was, what the price is going to be? Because we saw the future markets be absolutely really accurate on Bitcoin Cash. Is this what are your thoughts on the futures market so far?
Well, I love the futures market because it gives us more information, and I think we'd be stupid to throw that out or be against it. I mean, it's great. People get to freely trade whatever it is that they want, and specifically with Bitcoin, 2x. I was actually kind of surprised it was as high as 0.25. I really thought it was going to trade around the 0.1 range, which is kind of the Schnelling point for Bitcoin Cash, and I thought that would be sort of like what people would think about with 2x, but it turned out it had more support than Bitcoin Cash. That's fine, and that's fine. I don't really care. I'm just gonna hold through the whole thing.
Do you think that it being higher than Bitcoin Cash, a reason for that could be because of all these people signaling to actually go ahead and mine with the New York agreement? Or
I don't know. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons why that could be, but the market's the market, and usually that means it's a very good indicator of things to come. So I'm happy about the futures market existing. I wish there were more futures markets. That would be great.
I think to all who's watching, really, I mean, we need a whole bunch of futures markets. We need futures markets for Bitcoin and gold.
I want a decentralized futures market. I think that would be ideal. And I was actually like thinking about if that would be possible to do some sort of atomic swap for a future.
Oh wow!
So Greg Maxwell,
would that happen?
Well, so Greg Maxwell came up with this very, very clever way of doing it, and I put it in my newsletter. But basically, he said, create a transaction that's over a megabyte, right? Like really large transaction, and it's gonna be really hard to mine, but who cares, right? It's for like hundreds of Bitcoin. People pay whatever fee, and because it's so big, it'll only be valid on the 2x hard fork. But it won't be on the normal one. So you sign two different ones, and then you're atomically swapping because you have both, and then
there's some risk in there, obviously.
No, I think you could do it trustlessly if you do it right. But I forget the exact details. But it required a transaction that was so big.
You need to write an article on this, Jimmy.
Well, I mean, Greg explains it. Well, okay, all right. So fair enough. Whenever Greg explains something, he says like in one sentence what takes like 30 sentences to really comprehend.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I saw it. I was like, yeah, that's really clever because there may be other ways to do it via atomic swap. Certainly, if Lightning existed, I think you could do it. But I mean,
we're still getting Lightning.
Yeah, because what you could do is an atomic swap kind of between the two chains. I'm not sure. But I started thinking about that when Roger Ver made that bet, or Charlie Lee made that bet, and Roger was like, "I'll take that bet," and then Ben Davenport, Alex Morkos, and Tord Demeester all took him on that, 1-for-1 swap. But certainly, if you can do that sort of futures swap, all you need is really an order book and people to just sign transactions on either side. Then that could make futures markets super accurate because like you can just sort of see on the blockchain which ones exist, and then you'd have a market price.
And because it's an atomic swap, that could be completely decentralized, right?
Yeah, it could be decentralized and it could be trustless. If it could be trustless, that would be amazing. And I don't know, maybe Bitcoin core devs can think about like adding an extra opcode that can make that really easily possible. And, you know, have like hard fork best practices or something like that. I don't know, but
I think that's where we're heading, because we really are going to see a whole lot more hard forks in the future if these are successful. I mean, what do you think about that, Jimmy? Do you think 2018 is going to be the year of the hard fork if Bitcoin Cash and Segway 2X both give us 10, 25%?
Next year is going to be much worse than this year. So.
All right, so yeah, I have to agree. I think there's going to be a whole lot of hard forks, and they're going to have to figure out a way to automate this, because like we said, the pressure on the exchanges and the hardware wallets is going to be immense. There's going to be lawsuits, but remember, only if these coins start holding money. I don't think because there's been, I don't know if you know, Jimmy, but there actually was a hard fork of Bitcoin already just recently, but the coin is only worth trading about $2 or $3.
Which hard fork?
I forget the name of it now, and nobody's heard about it because it's literally only $2 or $3. So,
well, I mean, even if it's $2 or $3, if you hold a lot of it, it's worth money.
That's true. It is on CoinMarketCap, so I'll put
all right, we'll have to find out if it was an airdrop versus a hard fork. Those are very airdrop's a little different than a hard fork.
It was an airdrop.
Fiduciary duty around an airdrop's a little bit more murky than a hard fork. So, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
We need to come up with some kind of strategy for the ecosystem for these hard forks, because
Spencer,
it's going to get crazy.
Okay.
We're trying to get a few more guests.
I know you're like big time investor. I don't know if you want to be on. All right, yeah, come on.
Come on over, man. Good to actually meet you. Nice to meet you, sir.
Spencer Bogart, a legendary investor.
I don't know about that. I had to take a break from some of the pitches.
Yeah, I heard you've been hearing a lot. What do you think of the conference so far?
It's been great. I mean, it's great to see a lot of people. It's great to see you guys out here, and you know, it's good to connect with a lot of people in real life.
Yeah, I've never actually met you until like just this moment.
Yeah, exactly. Did you find any projects worth investing so far at this conference? Or
I'm sure there are, but it takes like a longer kind of going through things. Like on a first, you can get that kind of 30-second elevator pitch, and you like it, then you dig in the details, and I mean that's where all of this stuff is made.
What do you think about what do you think about the virtual reality stuff and the doing
the Matrix?
The Matrix, the first blockchain transaction.
That thing was really fun.
Reality.
So I missed that, but I mean overall the idea between virtual reality, digital currencies, I mean digital assets, there's such a natural overlap here, and you know those are people that generally already get this idea that digital assets have value. It's so hard to get people over that hurdle, right? I mean, I struggle with this with most people that I talk to. They just, if they can't touch it, it's not real, it doesn't exist. Like gamers, VR people, they get it.
And how do you sort of evaluate a lot of these investments? You were talking about how difficult that can be, and you know, obviously,
especially in this bubble that we're in.
Yeah, it's super tough right now. I mean, you know, in general, we're working with, you know, seed stage projects in general, so both on the equity side and if it's a token project. And so the idea is like, sit with the projects early, hopefully 12 months before they're even considering a token sale, and kind of say like, hey, let's like help work through the process and talk like any seed stage investment. In seed stage, things come with a lot of risk, so valuations need to be appropriately low, and that's difficult to kind of do in this kind of market. So you know, a lot of them, it's like, it's okay, it's fine, we can't participate.
Do you think the market's going to change?
It will, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, you're already seeing like a lot of the big offerings kind of peter out, not close their full amounts, and so you know I think the next leg is that we see a bit of a correction at some point. I don't know if it happens now, happens in 12 months, but
you mentioned 12 months. What was that about as far as you're looking over?
Just in general, we like to get involved with the projects early. I mean, if they call us up a week before they are going to do an ICO and say like, hey, we'll just give you a 40% discount, it's like, well, what value can we add to your project in a week? You know what I mean? Other than maybe throwing our brand behind it, which is part of one of the things that we can do. But I mean, really, I mean, we're here to help build. We're a venture fund, right? So we're here to actually build businesses and applications and not flip out of things.
So you're right. So you recommend that you got to look at a project for 12 months before.
No, not that we need to look at it for 12 months, but hopefully they come to us and they talk. And they're in the idea phase, and it's rough around the edges, and it doesn't need to be a polished thing like showing up like right before they're about to launch, which is, I think we're trying to like get people's head around that. They want to come with something really polished. You know?
Yeah. So lesson for you entrepreneurs out there: contact the VCs early, and like keep talking to them throughout your like startup thing, because that's like rule number one. They want to see the delta between the last time they met you and the current time that they met you.
That's exactly it. And we just want to be helpful too. Like we have a lot that we can do, and it's like it's okay if it's rough around the edges. Help you think through some things and help you structure it.
I think that's something that these developers, with their head down in the code all day long, don't really understand. Like the VCs, they want to help with you. They know that everything isn't perfect. They want to see a little bit of cracks in the mistakes so they can help and get rid of those cracks, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah, you hit it spot on.
Yeah. So I mean it's so interesting that I heard you were taking pitch meetings all week. I was looking for you like yesterday. I was like, yeah, Spencer's in some other building taking pitches.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That must have been an all-day thing.
I know,
It
right?
is. It's a lot of fun, and then at some point it starts to get overwhelming. I feel like I'm not giving my full attention to the projects, and so then I usually try to step away.
That's how I feel when I do like an 8-hour marathon on this thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, that's what happened. Was I was actually in there, and then I saw you guys were going live. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out and see what's going on out here.
Awesome. We're really glad to have you, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
All right, thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, Tone, what's up next?
What's on the agenda, Tone? The people want to know. You can't keep them in suspense. Like
Here,
this.
I gotta take a break. I gotta go in there.
Jimmy's gonna take a little break. I do have another guest for us, so this should be interesting.
Awesome.
Once I catch his attention,
We just gotta have him look over here.
Already.
He's going from interview to interview.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere, so I got nothing to do, guys. I got no life.
Right there.
Awesome. Here we go.
Have a seat. A little. Let's slide over a little bit so we're all on the camera.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Vortex, you want to slide over a little bit, and there you go. All right. So I'd like to introduce William Quigley. We've known each other for a little while. We've spoken at the same conferences. Michael Turpin, I believe, was the mutual connection. Well, we've spoken at the going back to like 2014 Coin Agenda.
Yes.
In Vegas, the little tiny room. We were on the same panel. It was me, you, and I think like somebody else, maybe like Matt Rozak.
Probably.
And it was like, why? Who the hell is this guy talking to me with like 3 top VCs? So I haven't seen you in a while. So tell us how. Well, introduce yourself, your fund,
Sure.
what you guys are investing in, and I know we'll share that one and we'll clip this on. How about that?
That'll work.
So let's clip that on and the other way.
I got it from
Sort of like. I'm not sure, but let's do that.
That's close enough.
That's good. Yeah, and just tell us the fund you're from. How's it going, and how has the space changed from the first time we met back in 2014 to now?
Ethereum. So how is it changed? So first, yeah, I'm a longtime venture capitalist. Started a firm called Idealab Capital Partners. That was the first venture capital firm that invested exclusively in the consumer internet space. That became a very successful fund. Then we split off from Idealab when they tried to go public, and we became Clearstone Ventures. And I did that solely for about 10 years. And in 2011, I started to get involved in not just cryptos, but cryptos and how it was affecting e-commerce. And of course, it did not affect e-commerce. It's only now beginning to affect e-commerce.
Yeah. We were all early on that train.
We were
everyone
very
except
early.
Bitcoin. Everyone except Bitcoin. And
Yeah.
Like,
We
no one's
started-
using it.
That defined like 2013 and 2014.
Yep.
It did. We start all these companies, Blade, which is a debit card for Bitcoin.
Did you invest
GoCoin.
in a lot of those debit
I
cards?
co-founded and invested in a bunch. 'Cause we incubated a lot of businesses.
Did any of them succeed?
I would say some of them succeeded in the sense that they were successful exits, right? The only one that I would say whose brand value, whose brand value I'd say is pretty good. One is GoCoin, which is a payment processor, Bitcoin, and the other is Tether, which is a US dollar derivative, which the exchanges now use for people who want things denominated in USD.
So did you invest in Tether?
I was co-founder.
You were a co-founder of Tether.
And so yeah, when you're a co-founder, you definitely invest either labor or cash.
How does Tether make money?
So Tether as a concept, I'd say it doesn't make any money directly. The way Tether made money for me is it allowed me to expand how much trading I was doing, because there are people, of course, who want to trade.
Well, of course,
with
Poloniex
exchanges.
utilizes it a lot because they can't
Yeah, and
hold
that
any
was
US
one of
dollars.
The exchanges.
This is what Brock and I had always thought. We said, we don't have any idea. I mean, we had concepts, but I didn't think they were very interesting about how you could make money as a Tether. Tether being basically a store of value that represents $1, always is $1. So if you don't like volatility in cryptos, you hold Tether, and it's always pegged to the dollar. But really, it's more about helping the ecosystem than that company itself capturing a bunch of value. And for the last 18 months, I've been focused on a company called Opskins, which is the leader in buying and selling digital items, in-game digital items. and we introduced about a year ago Bitcoin to that community. And it was one of the biggest signs for me and my partners at Opskins that Bitcoin's value was very underrepresented, because we saw how many people, when we would introduce them to Bitcoin, and they needed the Bitcoin to trade these digital items, how quickly they embraced it. So our view is, you know what? There is a use case for Bitcoin other than speculation and store of value. And I still believe that. Of course, at this point, Ethereum now has 30,000 devs behind it, and will probably become the dominant.
30,000 devs.
30,000 devs.
Is that including the ICOs on top of Ethereum, or
It
just
does.
Ethereum?
It does.
That includes it. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get into that topic. So what do you think about this ICO craze that we're seeing right now?
Well, so having been the very first venture fund that was dedicated to consumer internet, and what that was, which was very crazy, but also the value that got created during that time was real value. There were some companies that went out and they kind of slapped .com on themselves and they raised a few bucks, but in comparison to all the seminal companies that were built in the Internet 1.0 era, all the different business models. At Idealab, you had Bill Gross, who invented the concept of pay for placement search ranking that became the dominant model that Google uses. Obviously, PayPal, Priceline, you have all these incredible business models that came about from the web. I see the very same thing that's going to happen with blockchain. Blockchain is conceptually, in some ways, easy, but in some ways very difficult for business people to understand. I don't think it's been fully incorporated in the thinking of businesses, how blockchain can help them either serve their customer better or cut costs, or serve customers that they weren't accessible to them before. So at Opskins, a sizable percentage of our market is now open to us when it wasn't before, because we didn't have the right payment providers, or we didn't have the right currency management to take customers in certain countries. Now with Bitcoin, we can take customers anywhere. And that to me is like the most blunt utilization of blockchain. It's just as a payment mechanism, but we're going up fast.
But is your fund investing in any ICOs directly, or ICO teams? Do you take
we're big whales.
So do you take ICOs do you take the pre-ICOs and hold
so what
them?
I would say
how does the pre-ICO work? Because now I'm hearing about pre-ICO. How does that system work?
So it's the best way I would describe it. And by the way, there's a lot of venture capitalists who aren't in this market, so they ask me the same question, like, give me some familiar stuff to hang my hat on so I can understand it. So for a lot of people who are just starting an ICO, if it's a brand new concept, then they have no revenues, they have no funding, they're young entrepreneurs. How the hell are they going to do this? It's $500,000 to do an ICO. It could be more.
Why?
So, because you have to have an advisor. Generally you need a banker, you need an international tax firm, you need a SEC law firm, compliance law firm, you need people who are really, really good with digital marketing, and you need people who, of course, are the architects of the underlying system that you're trying to create. The product guys, the devs who are coding it. I mean, you need a shit ton of resources to do this. And so it's much more expensive to do an ICO than it would be, say, to do a seed round financing with the Delaware C Corp structure, where you're building a new piece of software for some random industry.
Right. So how does a little, two guys, two developers, how do they go about raising that chunk of capital to do their ICO?
So it's a great question, and this is exactly how it played out in the internet space. You had a few people who got in the internet space early, they did well, and then they wound up reinvesting that money into other internet entrepreneurs. They just recycled the money. You're seeing that even more pronounced in the ICO industry and the crypto industry. It's amazing. The vast majority of money going into these ICOs are people who have been in the crypto industry for a couple of years. There's not that much outside money that's doing it. And so you've got a great idea, let's say. You're a couple of guys who are trying to do some new application that hasn't been thought of yet. You need $500,000. What is shocking is how easy that is to raise, because people understand.
And you're raising that in the pre-ICO process.
So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, You either sell equity, which is what most of them do. They have an entity that is going to manage the ICO. They sell equity in that entity. They sell the tokens, you know, before they're issued.
Do you see tokens as do you see these ICO tokens as securities?
Well, I would say that's a loaded question, but what I would say is there's two types of tokens. There are those that act like securities, and there are those that are really software. They
Like
perform
application tokens.
Can you give us an
Sure.
example of
Yeah,
one
can you
of-
give us an example of one?
Okay, very,
good
okay,
question.
sure. Two great, easy examples. For those of you who are investors, God help you, in the DAO, I was. The DAO was a venture capital fund that raised 170 million, the first mass funded smart contract. Big lesson for all of us. The first time you do something, do not do it big. Right? That was the lesson.
Well, for the record, I have a video saying you're about to lose all your Ethereum, and that was 2 weeks before the hack.
I can only say, my partner and I went in it. We read, obviously I know a lot about venture capital, I know a lot about venture capital structures.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate these ICOs?
So I evaluated the DAO, and we were on the phone, and after 6 hours, I said, this thing is impossible to understand. It's going to be a train wreck. And then 15 minutes later, my partner's like, where are we sending the money? Because we had the fever. We want to be part of it. So that was a group of people raising money, and you're getting issued tokens, and that money would be used to invest in companies. That is attracting people who are investors and using the money that you've been given to go invest in other companies. That sounds like a security, even though it may not be a stock. The opposite of that, I'll tell you, is something I'm involved with called Wax. Wax is a utility token. What does it do? It allows people who buy and sell in-game skins. So for any of the audience that knows CSGO, Dota 2, Team Fortress 2, PUBG, all the games that have tradable skins, you can use the Wax token to allow you to bypass going through a formalized exchange and trade directly with someone without the risk of the guy ripping you off. So that has a very specific use case, and it's not, designed for an investment. It's designed to actually accomplish something. So one thing being held to make money, another thing being held to accomplish a task. That's the difference between a security token and a utility token. And by the way, there's a test. And when you go do your ICO, the lawyers will come in and they'll subject what you're doing to a test. And you either pass or fail. If you fail, you're a security. Why is that bad for you? Well, because you've got to get registered, and it costs a lot of money to get registered with the SEC.
What is the name of this test? It's not the Howey test, right?
It is the Howey test.
Oh, it is? Okay.
The Howey test indicates whether or not your token is a security or is a piece of software.
So I actually sat down with a security lawyer, and we discussed whether Ethereum, I don't know if it's past the Howey or broke the Howey, but we discussed whether Ethereum is a security, and our conclusion was that Ethereum failed the Howey test, and they should be labeled a security. What's your opinion on that?
And what the SEC said, because they kind of...
Well, SEC actually referred to it as a currency in one of their statements, which I thought was kind of silly.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, too? So.
Yeah, so, well, first I'll say this. You've got these, grand poobahs across the various governments. In the United States, 17 different federal agencies, and each of the grand poobahs saying, according to us, you are a thing. They tend to say whatever it is they regulate, that your thing is what they regulate, all right? Because they like to get more things under their control. So it is very confusing as a business person. It's confusing as a business person if you're required to try to answer to all these different agencies and what their definition of their thing is. Makes it hard. For instance, the IRS says Bitcoin is a piece of property. The CFTC says it is a currency. Well, I mean, who's right? Because different interpretations mean different regulation. So
they could be both right, because it's how you use it. If you use it as a currency, it's a currency. If you use it as a store of value, it's a property.
Yeah, but is a house ever a currency? It's never been considered a currency, right?
I don't know, maybe like a mobile home, if you can like move it around, if you can really easily sell it to other people, perhaps it could be.
Try going to a vending machine and cashing in with your mobile home. So, but that's what makes it tough. So different agencies across the world, all regulating it in different interpretations, makes things difficult to understand. And then you have to apply all of those tests. We need to solve that problem, I'd say, before a lot of big businesses adopt this stuff in mass.
Do you see these?
Wait, just a yes or no. Do you think Ethereum is a security?
Yeah, so first I'd say I don't like, it's kind of a trick question because the concept of security is a man-made concept superimposed on something.
Well, I agree. That's why I'm also asking a man his opinion.
So I would say this, if I apply the utility aspect of it, I say, no, I mean, the vast majority of the usage of Ethereum is to accomplish a thing. Now, people may hold it and may benefit from the appreciation of it because so many people are using it. But it's hard for me to stretch and say Ethereum is a security because its whole purpose is to aid people building platforms with smart contracts. That doesn't seem like the sort of thing I want to give to my grocer when I'm buying, a carton of milk. So I don't think of it as a currency. I don't think of it as a security. I think of it as a piece of software that performs something. But we get into this issue now of, in the eye of the beholder, if it's a court or an agency, they may call it one thing, I call it another. Who adjudicates that? Ultimately, the court system.
It has to go to court.
And that's too bad, right? Because I would like Congress to step in and say, look, let's spend time to really think through all this, give people the rules, and then the court system is a very imperfect way to figure stuff out.
That was my next question was, do you see, from your experience so far, do you see the three-letter agencies all kind of working together more and more? Do you see?
I don't think that's possible.
Do you see? I think it's near damn impossible. But do you see that as a maybe? And do you see them moving in that direction, or do you see them moving in the opposite?
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of cross-agency work support, but I do think there are a lot of people in Congress who are now aware that if this stuff is going to be adopted by the consumer mass market, it needs to be. We need to understand what the rules are, right?
And agree upon some rules.
Yeah, and we're still probably a few years away from it. I think Congress for a while just thought this is a fad and it's going to die, right? I would say this, if the consumer internet was subjected to the amount of regulatory oversight and intervention as has been done with cryptos, I think you would have needed a license to set up a web page.
Yep, absolutely.
And it never would have happened.
Yeah, that would have been pretty rough.
And we were really close to that.
We'd all be using Tor.
Well,
exactly.
The FCC would have come in and said, "Oh, you're a media property. Hey, we regulate you guys." Right?
Yeah, there's still a big media debate going on, and
it's the reason I'm so hell-bent against net neutrality. Net neutrality to me is a way for a government agency to come in and try to impose a bunch of rules and restrictions on an open platform that has flourished without all of this regulatory intervention.
I do want to get to that. I have like 2 more questions. I don't know how much time you have, but so my view on application tokens is, because you mentioned application tokens, just quick. So I have a bit of a problem with application tokens because it feels like a lot of these ICOs and a lot of these projects, they basically just create their own money to be used on their own platform. And I go back to, well, if that made sense, wouldn't we be buying Amazon products with Amazon stock and paying for Netflix subscriptions with Netflix and eBay stock to buy on eBay?
Yeah.
But that seems to be the mentality of some of these projects. Well, you have to use our token to buy our product.
But part of that is, part of the reason for that, I mean, I'm sympathetic to some of what you said.
Well, I know why they're doing it to avoid the Howey test, but I don't think it makes economic sense.
I don't even think that that's the primary reason. There's not a lot of interoperability with the smart contracts. So, I mean, you're trying to go rely on some guy who's going to build some system. When you have a market you want to go after, normally what happens in that environment is you just go out and build, and then you're like, hey, if there was off-the-shelf stuff that I could pick off from GitHub, I would use it. But it's not there. So I have to custom build, just like the early internet, right? $5 million to set up a website. You created your own checkout system. Now those are all just objects you grabbed from, whatever.
Right. I have one last question because I think you might have to go. We have a couple of people that may be looking for you. But so my last question is, what do you think is the success rate of VCs in the space? And is it a good idea to now open up the space to what I consider unqualified investors in early round investing of these projects? What do you think of that dynamic?
Well, the way you phrase it, I'm glad you said the way you said it, unqualified, because I hope anybody who is in the unqualified camp feels a bit of a sting and says, why am I unqualified?
Well, what is the definition of a qualified investor?
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
start there
yeah,
before you answer the
yeah,
question for our audience.
Right.
I know what it is,
Right.
but not everybody
And
does.
keep in mind that these are not securities for the most part; they're utility tokens. So that test wouldn't apply. But it is somebody. There's a wealth test. So some guys in the federal government decades ago decided that they knew best who should buy securities, right? They knew best, not you. And so what they did is they said, you have to have a net worth, might be $1 million, I forget. You have to have an income of 250,000. I don't know the exact things, easy to Google, but there's a wealth test, there's an income test. And if you meet that test, in their mind, you're allowed to buy things that they consider risky.
Correct.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
I've never agreed with it. I've never agreed with that. I don't think they're protecting anybody. First, I think people bypass this all the time. And they go, people don't even know about the rule to begin with. And second,
well, they bypass it all the time now with the crypto space.
No, long before that. How many people have invested in over the last 50 years in seed stage venture opportunities? That's the friends and family round.
But there's no. Wait. There's completely different laws for taking money from friends and family.
There really aren't.
Versus soliciting money from strangers.
The venture industry for decades has, if you strictly applied the qualified investor test, they and the people raising this money would not meet it. And what has happened is the federal government has decided, because innovation is important and because they don't want to put 5 million people in jail, they just turn a blind eye to it. And because for the most part, people have not been ripped off, right? For the most part, people may lose their money, but there hasn't been a lot of fraud. So the one thing that could hurt our industry, the ICO industry and cryptos in general, would be if a lot of scammers start showing up. So the industry is going to have to self-police.
Start showing up?
That's
well, it depends how you describe. Well, in China and South Korea,
right?
A huge problem, right? I haven't heard that it's a huge problem in the U.S., but have you heard differently?
I see it differently. It's not that I mean,
but
maybe
what I think you might be doing, what I consider a scammer is someone who has no intention of building anything. He has an intention to take your money and run away. Now, there are millions of people who take money every year to raise money for a small business. And if your definition of scammer is they're unlikely to succeed, or they're even delusional, there's a lot of, quote, scammers out there. I just consider those guys inexperienced entrepreneurs who fail at what they do.
And why? But why do you think anyone with no restriction, not even an age restriction, should be qualified to invest in those projects?
Well, you say that, but that's a red herring, because in order to get on an exchange, right, in order to acquire the crypto, you have to have met an age test, right?
That's not true.
You get KYC.
No, you don't.
No.
Oh, no?
No.
You can trade on
absolutely
solo.
not.
If you don't do anything with fiat, then absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
But no. But of course not if you didn't know anything yet. But to take your fiat and acquire crypto, how else did you get the crypto? How else did you get the crypto?
No, but there's enough people that are buying these things in the pre-ICO stage, in the early ICO stage. They immediately sell it. Like the moment the thing goes, the moment the news hits, they sell it within such an early time, and it's being bought still at an unreasonably speculative level by anyone.
All right. So I was with my partners, the largest investor in the Ethereum ICO. Okay, let me tell you, that thing cost it was about a nickel, 5 cents, based on the BTC to Ethereum price. Right, it began trading at 25 cents. Right, began trading 25 cents, shot up to 76 cents, dropped down to 15 cents.
Yeah, I remember that.
So all of the scammers who dumped at 15 cents and 25 cents and 76 cents, you're saying they ripped off the guys who held it at 400?
No, I'm not saying those were scammers. I mean,
but
no
they
one
don't know. The guys who are selling don't know.
We're talking about Ethereum. So before it launched, right? So Ethereum pre-sold the token a year before it launched, right?
Yep.
What was stopped? Was there any kind of a was there anyone watching the Ethereum project? Was there anything preventing the Ethereum team from disappearing with the money?
Just like there's no one preventing any VC-backed company from disappearing. What are the VCs going to do? And it happens. No, but I'll tell you what, their integrity, the fact that they were known, there were 400 of them, very well known. Yeah, there's social norms that come into play. All right, yeah, could they have scammed the 18 million? They could have scammed some of it. But you want to talk about a conspiracy where 400 guys say, let's take all these tokens and run off? Yeah,
well, I wasn't 400, it was 8. And
no, there were 400 working on it.
Yeah, but those are just employees. They're not going to be held accountable.
They're contractors.
They were just contractors. They wouldn't be held accountable for anything that
All I'm
went
saying
down.
is, you could have had a group of guys go take the money, but that exists in anything. Anyone who gives you something.
Well, right, but
I don't look to the
but in
government to
that
protect me for that.
right. But in that case, if that was a VC situation, it would happen to rich, qualified people who could afford to lose that money.
Yeah.
Anyone with a pulse could have invested in the Ethereum ICO.
So that's where you and I disagree. See, when I was poor, and I was poor once, I spent an unreasonable amount of money on stocks.
Well, we still are. We didn't invest in Ethereum.
That was our biggest problem.
There were people who would have said to me, William, you're an idiot. You don't know any better. But a rich trust fund guy who doesn't know fuck all about anything, he's allowed to invest?
Yeah, because this is how he loses his money.
Yeah, which benefits, right? Yeah. So I just have my point of view is, you let people manage their money, they're surprisingly capable of doing it, right? Surprisingly capable of holding on to their money.
If that was true, I don't think we'd have as many SEC laws as we do.
I'm going to have to disagree with that last one.
They're scammers, right? There are people who scam, right?
Absolutely.
And that will not, look at Bernie Madoff, literally, he was served up to the SEC.
That's a unicorn case.
Oh, it's a unicorn case.
That's the Wolf of Wall Street case.
But it's not. It's not.
It is.
People constantly get scammed by SEC-approved investments. Mortgage-backed securities, $5 trillion.
I know, but in that case, right, like the pension funds, the big funds that were investing with Madoff,
who's the beneficiary?
It was their job to look into this.
Who's the beneficiary of the pension funds? Mom and pop.
Right, but
factory workers.
But the pension funds should have been legally liable for not checking it. They had the resources to do it.
Yeah, should have, would have, could have.
They had the resources to do it.
Look, I think the best stewards of your money is you. That's what I think. So
we can keep talking. I don't want to. If you have time, we can keep going. I'm not in the rush, but I think people are waiting for you. I think people. All right, we can keep going. I'm enjoying this conversation. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, William, for coming on.
Are you going to be in Vegas?
I don't think so. I've already been traveling for a month and a half, and it's trading season for me with earnings season. So I'm gonna go home. This will be the first coin agenda I'm missing. I was there at the last 3.
Well, I'm sorry to not see you. All right.
Thanks so much, man.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on and being a good sport about the questions.
Appreciate it.
All right. We got another guest.
All right. I got to check on my presentation. I'm just like curious. I'll stay for the introduction and I'll probably run out.
All right. So we got Damien, co-founder of Airbitz wallet, and also doing something with Matrix. So can you tell us more?
This will be a biased. If I stay here, it'll be a little biased because I really like Airbitz. This will be a more neutral presentation.
But you're biased on everything, Tone.
I'm here to tone it down.
Yeah. we did see some crazy, amazing virtual reality stuff in there. So yeah, I mean, what's going on with all that?
Yeah. So. A co-founder of mine, Scott Morgan, got involved with a company called Nanome and Nanome.ai. They've been producing tools for virtual reality for the last few years, and they're actually they piqued my interest when I heard that they were Litecoin miners in the early days, and they kind of weren't into the blockchain space, but they were talking about publishing designs and problems using bounties to the blockchain, and so that really intrigued me. I tried it out, and I was just like, oh my god, this is what computers are for.
This is the future.
This is the future, right? Yeah, that's like that's what I do. I just look for the future and wait for everybody to show up. That's why I love crypto. It's the same kind of people.
I love that. We already live in the future. We're just waiting for everybody else to show up. Love that.
Yeah, and so it was just a no-brainer for me to get involved, and I'm here helping them, kind of get noticed. And I saw Jimmy, been a longtime fan, and I saw you yesterday, Vortex. I'm such a fan of you guys. You guys have blessed the crypto community with your intelligence for so long. And
how much do I owe you for saying that?
Thank you so much for the kind words. We definitely appreciate it. I did see Jimmy in there in the VR. I actually took a couple pictures because it looked like Jimmy was having such a good time in there, just looking around. And
there was like this protein, and you could like sort of rotate it and hold it up and zoom, and I felt like I was in Minority Report. It was awesome.
Shout out to Omar from Crypto, CRYPT0.
Crypt Zero, yeah.
Yeah, he did an interview yesterday with us, and you kind of see some of that on there. It's minute 25. Yeah,
right after me, I think.
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, maybe you can tell us about the first the first virtual reality blockchain transaction.
You know what? I had to run to Home Depot. I got this 10-foot by 5-foot LED wall, and I had to take it apart. So I had to run to Home Depot to get some wrenches.
Oh, you
missed it. Like the first.
Well, it was pretty interesting.
Well,
I can tell you real quick. It was pretty crazy because you know, it was of course on the NEM blockchain. So I don't know if you want to actually call that a blockchain, but it was that. It was definitely really interesting watching them really present the first transaction of virtual reality. I mean, even if it was only with PayPal, it would still be really kind of fascinating to see this stuff grow and see this actually happening in real time. It was on a really big screen, like you said. It was just this fascinating, huge screen. Maybe even you can.
It happened on my screen, right?
Maybe you can take 5 seconds and tell us. Maybe you can maybe just take 5 seconds and tell us about that crazy screen.
Oh yeah, it's I've always been intrigued by LEDs, and it kind of just dawned on me that I needed. You know, I was like doing yoga or meditation the other day, and I was like, this is this company is called, or this project is called Matrix. I need an LED screen, and that is actually a matrix of LEDs, which are actually light emitting diodes, are crystals, and every crystal is a fractal, and it's just like.
You're going down the rabbit hole here.
Going down the phi spiral. Yeah. That's all I do. I follow phi.
The Fibonacci spirals and the phi spirals.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be here. It's been amazing. I got to see Brian Hoffman again. My buddy Will.
You gotta get Will on.
Will Pengman.
You want to come on?
Will, you better come on, man. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, there's a nice seat over here.
We got another person coming on. Just in a second, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm just I'm in awe of all the great minds collaborating in one space, and yeah, everybody's got their different opinions on ICOs, but at the end of the day, it's what spurs innovation.
I like this like
is the manifestation
through the back.
Very
I
cool,
thought
very
that
cool.
was like a bar, but I guess it's not.
Yeah, there's some.
That's just our amazing light right there. Our amazing
like
lighting, paid for by the sun.
How do I?
Another project I'd like to give a shout out to is the Rare Pepes.
Counterparty Rare
and the old Fegs. I told you guys, watch out for us at this conference.
Well, anyway, why don't you introduce?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just take a quick second. Joining us with this, one of the old school Bitcoiners. I even had the privilege of taking a picture with him yesterday. I tweeted it out, got a bunch of likes. People just love it. I'd like to introduce Mr. Will Payman. Will, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been on World Crypto Network, huh?
Yeah,
It's
used
been
to
a little while.
represent World Crypto. It's people like you and Thomas really that inspired me to start creating content. It was you guys did absolutely great back in the day, and when it went away, I didn't know what to do with myself. I had to create some kind of content to bring back the days.
For a while there, we all got busy with projects and startups, but I'm really glad to see, as it should be, I suppose. But I am thrilled with the content I'm seeing coming out of World Crypto Network. I mean, having Jimmy on there all the time is just fantastic for all the newbies out there, especially the developers coming to this industry. So I'm hugely grateful to you, Jimmy. No, it's great. We don't have nearly enough developers in this community, nearly enough at all. There's such a need for talent. So if you're out there and you're a developer, you have some developing skills, but you haven't learned any blockchain coding yet, or watch Jimmy's videos, read his blogs, and just go self-teach or attend my seminar.
I'm just gonna say, Jimmy is actually physically teaching you how to program at a seminar. So you guys got to check that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually like.
Do you have a flyer or something?
Well, no, I had this cheat sheet that I produced for the seminar that you can kind of take a look at. It's it has like the entire an example Bitcoin transaction, and it breaks down a hex dump of what it is and everything in it, and this is sort of what I show to like promote my seminar. People think, oh, okay, he actually knows what he's talking about. So that's kind of why I carry it around.
It's a cool looking cheat sheet.
Yeah,
Very
color coded and everything. Anyway,
amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you feel like the Bitcoin industry has evolved since you were first on the World Crypto Network?
Oh my gosh, it's massively bigger, obviously, massively bigger, and I've just seen tons of great developments. I think the only thing I wish I would see at this point is more developers, more folks who already have skills, coding skills, getting into this. I mean, there's too many companies that they have capital, they can't deploy it. We need you people out there, so sign up for Jimmy's courses.
Yeah, we definitely need more people. We talked about this earlier, and we need more people that are into it for the passion of coding and liberating the human race with their mind. You literally can help liberate the human race with your mind.
All right, not to make that sound too trippy, but I totally kind of agree.
Absolutely. I mean,
Right.
the underlying message, people.
Because the blockchain or Bitcoin is secured by developer talent, and it really is the mind that sort of liberates people through sound money. And I know you meant that kind of like trippy way, but I actually think that's really, really true.
It's really true. You can say it in a bunch of different words, but really the message is clear. This is global changing technology, and we need more people to get on it. Looking forward to more and more people joining this space and making this huge, even bigger than it is.
Yeah. There's lots of neat activity I'm seeing, like lots of institutions getting involved. We used to talk about this back on the day, like Thomas used to always say on the Bitcoin group, like as soon as I can buy gas with Bitcoin and stuff like that. Remember? Those of you who've been watching a while may remember, but yeah, it's now oil companies will be mining and things like that. It's coming.
Yeah, it will. It really will be coming. So
Oil on the blockchain?
I think somebody tried that already.
I think so.
I'm gonna write up my ICO white paper tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, they say the truth will set you free. It's like our chance. And you said oil on the blockchain. There's already drugs on the blockchain and gold. That means God is on the blockchain already too, right? Gold, oil, drugs.
There you go.
That's it, man.
God is on the blockchain.
It is the singularity, if I ever saw it.
Oh man, we could get into some serious metaphysical.
Yeah, we could go deep on
right
that.
Now. we really could.
We just need to get some funny cigarettes out here, and everything. We will have some amazing.
Yeah, oxygen is the best drug, right? I don't know. How do you see this this stuff changing humanity? Let me ask you like questions at the level I think that you want to answer them.
The 10,000-foot view, really.
I mean, it's the light at the. It was a light in a very dark time for me. I dropped out of. I didn't want anything to do with the financial system after I think in 2006 or 7 I saw the Zeitgeist. Then I read The Creature from Jekyll Island, and I just felt like completely scammed by the world that I had been participating.
As you should, really.
Yeah, I mean, I really had it easy too. I mean, I got kicked out of high school and kind of got into computers just by happenstance. I just filed.
You didn't graduate high school.
No.
And you co-founded Airbitz.
Well, I graduated, but I had to finish it by myself.
Oh wow!
I made a taser out of a camera, and
wow.
It was right around the time of Columbine. They called it a weapon for a AA battery and a capacitor.
Oh my God!
I had a chip on my shoulder from that point, and then I got into computers. I was like really into engineering and architecture, but I knew I needed college education for that. But I found simple certifications, got Cisco network engineering certifications, did that for a while. Was making great money. And I moved out to California. I was living the dream, but then it's like I took the red pill. We just started a group called Red Pill Smoothies. I mean, it's like
Bitcoin is the red pill.
Once you're woke, you can't go back to sleep, right?
Once you start to go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I just don't think that if you really are going down the rabbit hole, you're not going to be able to climb out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I was working for the corporate world and was not happy at all, and had some ideas. The corporate world always wants to, take your ideas and try to make money with them. And I just dropped out and I stopped paying all my bills. I just went into like hibernation. And when I came back, Bitcoin was all of a sudden available. But when I came back to actually trying to participate again in reality, Bitcoin had just begun, and at the time I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to rebuild a simple life, keep it simple. And I started a web development company with my girl, my life partner, and things just kept progressing. I kept my eye on Bitcoin, and I think it was like 2011, 2012 that it actually started becoming real again. And I went to a meetup, and that's the rest is history. I mean, I met Paul, and I was just inspired. Once you got the spirit of Satoshi, I call it the spirit of Satoshi, whatever you want to call it. Whoever Satoshi is, she, it, they. The field,
The spirit of Satoshi.
it is it's infectious, and it's a mind virus, and it's
You're almost
mind virus.
describing it in like religious terms.
Yeah,
almost,
it's a
right?
little bit.
It really is. It's a religion to it's a practice. Religion is a practice. If you practice these concepts, you can set yourself free. So that I consider it the truth, and maybe it is a religion. Yeah. Bitcoin
Blockchain is the truth.
Yeah, it's just a light. It's a hope. It may not be anything, but it's a hope to let me go back to participating in reality and creating again versus destroying my life and like going smaller and smaller and smaller. I expanded after I found Bitcoin and wanted to participate.
I just really like what Andreas says. It's an exit. It's an exit sign. Ultimately, it's an exit sign from all of the things that you found so upsetting from after reading The Island of, what is it? I was forgetting. Creature from Jekyll Island. That's just an amazing book. Everybody needs to read that book as soon as possible. And once you do, you will come out the other side wanting Bitcoin.
Right,
Yeah,
let's take a look at that question.
Okay.
Airbitz dude, I invested via Bank to the Future. Can you give an update of what you have done with it, and when will there be an opportunity to cash out?
Yeah, I think Paul is going to be announcing some stuff. I'm not actively working on it, but I do have some information, but I can't release
It's
anything.
not public, yeah.
You guys are going to be happy.
Yeah, there's some really cool updates coming from Airbitz. I'm privy to some of it as well. Helped with that fundraise while I was still with the team, and yeah, I think the crypto community is going to be really thrilled with what they see in the next, 2 to 3 months coming out of the Airbitz shop.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say look out. Who's Metal? Look out, Metal. Look out, Jax. Look out. These guys are real developers. They're not trying to make a killing yet. I understand you invested. There will be light at the end of your tunnel, but
the other part of the question
doing
was
really
the
hard development, and it takes time.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the liquidity event would be, but perhaps I know that when we did the Title III fundraise with Airbitz, which was like regulated crowdfunding, this was last year when all these ICOs were sort of starting, and lots of the risks were really apparent with the ICOs. And of course, being a Bitcoin company natively, we were eschewing that vehicle for fundraising, especially a year ago when it was just not as prevalent like it is now. So yeah, Airbitz decided to go regulated crowdfunding route, brought in money from the crowd using WeFunder and Title III, as well as Bank to the Future. I think, we talked back then about doing the subsequent round, as assuming that these securities platforms for tokens mature, that Airbitz would like to do a token for its equity at some point, possibly. And like the next stage of the Jobs Act type of Reg A plus round.
I would say you guys probably want to talk to Paul soon.
Yeah,
providing some really good content.
Yeah, the only reason I mentioned that stuff with Reg A plus and whatnot is just that that may be, especially if there's a token involved, that may be an opportunity to liquidate if you're an investor.
Very cool.
That's just one of the things that is possible with both regulated crowdfunding as well as tokens, actually. So in a later round, potentially that might be available to the Airbitz crowd investors, but don't quote me on that. It's just sort of reading the tea leaves.
The big announcement will be in October at the Austin event, or it is October 27th. I think it is something.
Yeah,
like
keep an eye out for the Texas conference. Yeah.
Time moves fast. It's already October, man, and soon upon us will be the Bitcoin and Gold Forum. That's what's gonna mark October for me of this year. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin, anything other than Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold. There's nothing that stands up to Litecoin. It's like they're all a joke.
Litecoin did amazing this year, obviously going from $4 to
Can you repeat
$50.
that? What?
Go ahead.
Repeat that statement.
I don't think any of these forks stand up to Litecoin. Can
And you
stand
don't
up.
stand up to Litecoin.
Well, Bitcoin Cash is worth more
Bitcoin
than
Cash and
Litecoin,
Bitcoin Gold.
technically.
Right.
Even though it's crap.
Right. So I agree with you. Litecoin is significantly better than these forks. What other altcoins do you like? I know I missed the first half of the interview, so I'm just picking up randomly. So obviously you're a big believer in Bitcoin. You support Litecoin. What other altcoins and cryptocurrencies do you support and like?
I'm a big. I hung with Vitalik a little bit in the early days. I'm a big fan of Vitalik. Toronto conference. We were at a hackathon.
2013,
2014.
2014.
Yeah, I think it was April 2014.
That's early days for Ethereum.
I didn't know. It was the pre ICO, all that stuff. I invest in the developers and philosophy. They have to have good values and philosophy. At this time, I'm a fan of Charles Hoskinson. To be honest, IOHK is really killing it in many different areas. They're real crypto scientists. They're not the flash in the pan kind of guys. They rebuilt the Ethereum clients with Scala, and I think they're gonna have a lot less bugs in the long run. It's an investment in the now. But
what about some of the more recent stuff? Like which do you like ICOs? Like which ICOs do you like, or which? There's not that many altcoins coming out, right? So the altcoin boom is gone.
Yep, that's
now
over.
we have ICO boom. There's still Ethereum competitors. There's still platforms coming out. Like I don't know. Me and Brock kind of debated if EOS is a competitor to Ethereum. I say that it is.
It is.
I'm not sure what else it does other than almost the same thing as Ethereum. I could be wrong. I haven't looked into it.
And then we got Qtum and Neo and everything else.
Right. So there's these things, and then there's like what else is there's Waves.
I just say Qtum or
Qtum, Waves, and
Neo, the Chinese version.
And there were others, right? So you have the platforms that are still coming out. You have the ICOs on top of those platforms, but the altcoins are pretty much gone. And now we have the new wave of Bitcoin forking as the new altcoin. So how do you think the Bitcoin forks are going to compete with the ICOs?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a wave of the fork. I don't know how many forks you're going to get to pull
Well,
off.
we're going to have 3 fairly significant ones in a span of what, 2 months?
2 or 3 months.
I mean, I don't
How big do you think gold is going to be?
It sounds like I thought it was going to be ignored, but like the more attention we're giving it here on the World Crypto Network, like the worse it's going to get, which is like frustrating the hell out of me in one way. But I don't mind
take your money and run.
There's no future. Yeah, there's no futures market for it yet. But I mean, Jimmy and I were talking about it being like possibly 0.1 to 0.4.
I'll blame Jimmy out for this one.
None of these coins live without the devs. So I mean, that's really what.
I don't know who the devs are.
The community.
I don't either.
But I don't know who the devs are in Bcash either, and that seems to be still like around. I know one dev in I know one dev in what do you call it, the 2x fork.
Yeah, there is only one dev, yes,
right,
and his name is Jeff.
There, and I wouldn't even let him fill out my Excel spreadsheet. So I don't know what that means.
I would just point you to Hoskinson's latest talk at Nexus. It's a really good talk.
What do you think of Nexus? Let's start there.
The Nexus conference.
The Nexus. No, I know, but what do you think of the Nexus Earth coin?
Never paid attention. I don't know it.
I don't know what that is.
But they scheduled it. That's the Nexus conference.
Oh, okay.
Where all of them spoke, Roger and Hoskinson.
Oh, that's the one in China?
The Nexus conference was sponsored by the Nexus token.
I only watched it because I watch Hoskinson.
Oh, yeah, so you didn't see any other presentations?
I didn't see anybody other than Hoskinson and the panel.
Okay.
But you were asking what ICOs I like. I mean,
yeah.
I
what
like
do you like in
anything.
the space?
I got to talk to the devs first. I got to understand what their intentions are, because that's what it all boils down to for me. Yeah,
exactly.
Things can look like a bad business opportunity and have amazing intentions, and I'll put money in it because that's what it takes to create a better world.
Well, we did get a question from the chat there. So, what are your thoughts on MadeSafe?
MadeSafe, met those guys a long time ago. I haven't been keeping up with it, but at the time they were really solid guys. They had great intentions.
What do you think about them being around for so long? I mean, 10 years is something going to get produced.
Yeah, I remember finding them. We were actually going to use them for integrating for Airbitz to decentralize, the storage of the crypto packages, and I just haven't been paying much attention to all that. I kind of dropped out and just went to go earn some money because once I saw a future in crypto, I said, I need to just
drop everything.
I need to get my money together and do. I don't want to feel sorry later. I mean, because the bottom line is nobody listens to you unless you have money. That's what I learned.
That's the kind of society we live in.
Are you still involved in Airbitz in any way?
Yeah, I just was over Paul's house and we discussed some things.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to Paul in a while.
What I know is they just rewrote the entire core in JS, and it's going to be so much more agile to develop and add coins and create.
Right. So Airbitz is going to a multi-coin wallet, kind of like
what they want to do is help
does.
secure crypto assets, be it coins or.
We're calling them crypto assets.
Do you know where they are? Do you know where they are with SegWit addresses? Did that come up in your conversations?
It didn't come up, but I believe it's definitely pretty much ready. If it's not implemented right now,
no, it's not yet because I haven't seen it. That's my primary.
I think they're probably waiting for the announcement.
It's not yet.
It's probably just there's no sense in when you hear the announcement, you'll know why. If you know it, you know.
All right, I've been busy.
If you know what you know,
I haven't had a chance to talk to Paul. All right, I want to see if we have, I asked a bunch of people to walk over, but clearly nobody does because no one likes to listen to directions in the crypto space. They just go and do ICOs. So we will need to, someone will need to.
What is it? What is it, Litecoin? Hodl Litecoin. I think I saw Charlie.
It's hold me. It's like, give me a hug.
Dude, I thought I saw Charlie Lee wearing that shirt
He might have.
on a tweet.
Just made this. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chad.
All right,
thanks so much, man. We really
coming on.
appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah. All right, if you head back that way, try to get Brian.
Yeah, let me get him.
Tell Brian Hoffman to get his ass over here. We'll see if we can interview him.
Mr. Brian Hoffman, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, Brian was walking around. Thanks, man.
I saw him walking around yesterday. I know he's here today, so.
What'd you think of the VC interview, man?
To be honest, Tom, that was pretty heated. That was intense. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Because this what you have is this clashing, right? Of this crazy trying to make sense of this ICO, and then this super altruistic, super positive belief that hey, everybody can control their own money, no problem. But if like I said, kind of that's why we have a million SEC laws because people can't.
Well, all right. I was on a panel. I mean, we tried to stream this from the Prague event. Unfortunately, we didn't do it. Waiting for this discussion of qualified investors. And my view remains on the VC space that it's no different than the hedge fund space. Regular people cannot invest in hedge funds unless they're crypto hedge funds, as we learned from an earlier interview. Of course. But so they can't invest in hedge funds because, and I learned this back in college, and it was funny. I didn't even know what a hedge fund was back in graduate school in finance. But someone raised a question to this economics professor and said, why would you give money to a hedge fund that's going to lose you money? And the answer was, well, because you're rich. And ever since then, I have the same view on the VC space. Why would you give your money to a VC so you can lose your money? Well, because you're rich, okay? And on that panel, the person was saying how ICOs are good and how it'll bring up all of this innovation because now your project can be funded and anybody can fund it. And then a little later on, I got the same person to admit that 80% of the project VCs invest in lose money.
Yes.
So VCs lose money 80% of the time. And I got back to him saying, okay, whoa, that was a plane taking off, guys.
A jet accident.
Yeah.
I'll be done in 1 second.
So he said that 80% of the money that VCs are wrong. He said VCs are wrong 80% of the time. So I got back to him. Okay, so VCs, it's their job to pick out the best companies to succeed. It's their job. It's supposed to be their specialty. and they are wrong 80% of the time. But you think that the wisdom of the crowd is going to do a better job than a professional in that space.
And that's what's really strange to me, is that we've kind of proved this wisdom of the crowd thing false, right? Like with things with like Wikipedia, we find that it's not the wisdom of the crowd. We find that it's only about 20% of all the entire Wikipedia users of the entire site actually contributes to the site. 20% do at least 80% of the work. And so with this wisdom of the crowd thing, it continues to be proven wrong, and yet now all of a sudden we think we can apply it perfectly well in the ICO space.
Right. So look, you're rich. You get to invest in these speculative projects just so one of them can work out, just so you can show off to your other rich friends that you were in it. It is that simple, guys. It's that simple. If you think rich people continue like only the rich make money, no, only the smart rich make more money. The dumb rich lose that money
and no longer become rich anymore.
And the majority, if you inherited that money, you're probably dumb money and gonna lose it. Yes, there are exceptions. Trump did not lose his money. He did build his money into a fortune that landed him in the presidency.
He also lost a shitload of money too,
right.
But he could afford to.
And like we always say, he would have made more money by doing nothing in the stock market. But he made up for that. Yes, he would have had more money if he would have done nothing and left it in the stock market. But he would not have been president. People would not know Trump's name. He would not have had these TV shows. Yes, you could be richer, but you would be unknown. This is the same thing in the trading space. Like I'm in the trading space. Look, or I can do content and do my trading seminars and do all this stuff for you guys with everyone asking me what's the price of Bitcoin going to be tomorrow or next year. Or I can trade. If I disappear and I start trading, will I be successful and beat the S&P 500 every year? I can.
Well, you'd be more successful because you'd have more time.
Well, I could also lose all my money.
Oh, that's true
right?
too.
So I'm taking the safer way out right now. You can call it that. That's fine. Now, I initially quit my job to be a trader. This was going to be a little side hobby that became a little bit more than that. But the idea was, all right, I'm going to be a trader. Maybe I'll lose all my money, but I have confidence that I'm going to beat the S&P 500 every year and I'm going to win. If I did that, none of you would know my name. I would be rich. I would be traveling the world, doing exactly what I'm doing, traveling the world. Jets. Well, no, not necessarily. Okay. If I'm rich, but nobody would know I exist, right? And this is the thing. It's like people always compare to these star people, popular traders. You go on CNBC and you start doing it. Once you leave your desk and you start becoming a public figure, calling this stuff, calling the price and all that stuff, you're less of a trader now. You're more of a TV personality. And this is why TV personalities that preach buy and hold and aren't getting their hands dirty trading, and they're comparing themselves to the traders that are also on TV that are now half traders and half TV personalities. Yeah, that doesn't work. But there are real traders. There are people that crush the S&P 500 every year, and you don't know they exist. Because if you know they exist, they would actually blurb out what they're doing, and their advantage disappears. VC space works the same way, okay? There's a couple of VCs. There are stars that can pick out the right team, that can help guide the right team, but you don't know they exist because they don't want to work with people like you. They want to work with smart, rich people that understand risk, that understand what they're doing, that trust them. And that's kind of how the space works.
Very interesting stuff, Tone. I mean, we are in a bubble at this point, and there are going to be a lot of people that are going to lose their money. And a lot of these people, these people who are supporting ICOs, they seem to all continue coming back to the thing to say, that's okay. Let these people lose money. It's okay. They can hold their own money. And when this huge bubble, the largest bubble that's ever existed, I think it's going to happen, right? Because now anybody can trade. This largest bubble, when it finally does come crashing, there is going to be a lot of pain. But there will be a lot of lessons learned. And one of them is that you don't just let every single person on the planet just willy-nilly invest into things. We want to do borderless investing. We want to do borderless currencies. We want to have the world come together, but there has to be some rules. We have to agree to some kind of rules. so that not everybody, when the bubble hits, not every single person in the entire space gets wiped out.
Right. So I've been thinking about it some more. I started doing research on comparing the ICO bubble to the IPO bubble, and there's a couple of like conclusions I'm coming to. And I started bringing these up on other podcasts, maybe on my podcast. I know I've done it at seminars. I don't know if I've done it on the World Crypto Network. So one of the things that helped fuel the .com bubble, and I was in college during the .com bubble, so I did not participate. But I remember, like, I was a science major, so I had nothing to do with finance. I wouldn't even know how to have a stock trading account. But people in my dorm, guys on my floor, my friends, they were finance majors. And I remember one of them trading penny stocks from the dorm with like his brother's money, and like he lost a few $1,000s, right? And it hit me. Wait a minute, what helped fuel the .com bubble? Why did it get out of control? And it came to me. The .com bubble with it brought .com brokers. E-Trade, Scottrade. Remember the commercials? You might have been too young.
Oh no, I was in high school, but I still remember they were playing all the time.
Remember the E-Trade commercials and the Scottrade commercials? They were everywhere.
Everywhere, every other commercial.
Everywhere. Super Bowl, everywhere. Okay, and those commercials open and the Scottrade and E-Trade. Remember the E-Trade baby?
Yes. Who spoke? They CG.
Google it.
Yeah,
guys, you're too young. Most of you guys are too young. You might not have even been born yet.
It's hilarious.
Okay?
You gotta look it up.
Our followers. Google the E-Trade baby. Those were the commercials back in the day. All right.
I mean, just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
You remember the E-Trade baby? Right. All right. Got confirmation right here from a millennial. Remembers the E-Trade baby. And now, see, in the past, if you were going to be a trader, you had to have a phone contact. You probably did not have your own exchange to trade with. You had to go through a broker.
Yep.
The movie Boiler Room. Go watch the movie Boiler Room, okay? Even the people in Boiler Room were only supposed to call whales. They were only supposed to call rich people, the doctors, the lawyers, the dentists, right? Now, they were breaking the rules as you watch the movie Boiler Room. So they were calling people kind of not so rich. And they were like pushing the
taxi drivers. I mean,
no, not that low.
Oh, not that low. Okay,
no. They were calling people like middle class people, but not like rich people. And they were convincing them to invest like their retirement fund, their savings, into the. They were like, hey, why you got to check with your wife? You're not a man? Come on, it's $20,000. Like invest in the stock, but $20,000 is all that person had in his account.
Yep.
Right. So they were supposed to be calling doctors for whom $20,000-$30,000 is no big thing. But they were like
kind of like Wolf of Wall Street.
They were cutting the corner. Well, Wall Street is something very different.
Right, but he was still targeting.
Yeah, they were scamming penny stocks. That was different. Right, but those were the days of like the 80s going into the 90s. With the 90s came E-Trade and Scottrade. Yes. And now you didn't need the broker. So all of a sudden, the barrier to deal with stockbrokers and stock traders got dropped to where you as a taxi driver, you as a shoe shiner, can now open an account on Scottrade, can open an account on E-Trade. All you needed was U.S. residency and a bank account. And you can open an E-Trade account. You can start trading with less than $1,000 with penny stocks, but you had to follow the 3-day rule unless you have 25 grand. Now that's the rule. The 3-day rule applies like for day traders. You may not know this.
Nope,
right?
I don't know this.
So here's the rule. If you have more than $25,000 in your trading account, you can day trade. You can buy in the morning, sell 10 minutes later. You can buy today, sell tomorrow.
Otherwise, you have to wait?
Otherwise, you have to wait 3 days.
Wow.
You have to wait for it to settle.
That's a crypto trader's worst enemy, like a crypto trader.
Oh, absolutely.
With
and honestly, and in a fast-moving stock.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you bought into a stock and it starts to like go up really fast, you can't exit. You can't take your profit. You have to wait 3 days, right? Or have 25 grand. I think 25 grand for a trader is not too much to ask for. Okay.
And people ask why Coinbase has 3 to 4 days. This is why.
Right. Well, a little different, but
you know.
But that's the thing.
They want to protect themselves.
But the barrier to entry to be a trader disappeared. But you still had to be 18. There was still an age restriction.
Yep.
You had to have a bank account.
And
you
US
had
residents.
to be, well, U.S. residency to trade U.S. stocks.
Okay.
But there was the .com boom was all over the world. Like Europe had it as well.
Yep.
You had to be a Europe resident to trade European stocks. Actually, the European Union wasn't even there then. It was like forming.
Right.
But anyway, and that helped fuel it. And now you have like these taxi drivers talking IPOs because they had the ability to trade them where they didn't have that ability in the 80s.
Correct.
Because nobody would call them to solicit them. And that helped fuel the .com bubble. The barrier got dropped again with the ICOs. No jurisdictional restriction,
No age.
no bank account restriction, and no age restriction.
And it's global.
And it's global.
Absolutely
now,
global.
Most of the people that were around for the .com bubble are staying the hell away from this thing, like myself. Other people that remember the .com bubble real well, they're trying to take advantage. They're the ones that are selling you this because they know, and I've spoken to some of these people, they're like, oh, no, we're not even near the .com bubble. I was there for the .com bubble. I'm gonna ride this thing higher, then I'm gonna get out at the top. And if they know what they're doing, they will get out at the top, but you won't. Okay.
It's almost impossible to tell. I mean,
yeah,
we can have another.
Yeah, well,
year
I
of
was
this
waiting for
craziness.
Brian Hoffman.
Oh, is he gonna be?
Yeah, he was
I think
standing.
we're trying to
I was
find him.
hoping. Yeah, if you don't drag people here, they don't actually show up. Brian Hoffman, there's Murat from BitFury is here.
Oh,
I tried to get him. He said he would do it, but he was talking to a bunch of guys.
Well, maybe we can come back for another session.
So we have Justin Newton we can bring in. We have Murat from BitFury we can bring in. He's in their investor division. I wanted to talk to him.
We need to
What
line
is
them all up.
what is BitFury investing in?
They have an investment division.
They do.
That's right.
Right, and he's one of the guys from their investor division.
Yeah.
And Brian Hoffman, which is always an interesting conversation.
We can take a break and then come back and then line them all up.
I don't want to restart a stream though.
Okay.
Is he still talking?
No, we want the epic 4-hour.
Right, and
that's what we're known for, I guess.
Oh, I see Justin.
Oh, you want me to get the decred guy?
Yeah.
Like he was walking around with a cell phone, but Justin, Justin is walking over this way, so maybe we'll get Justin.
Yeah, I'll bring.
You guys know how we do it live on the World Crypto Network.
They're a little behind. I'm not going to speak till about 6:30. It's almost 6 p.m. here.
We got to cut soon anyway.
No, I may not even speak. I don't even care.
Everybody's waiting for you to speak.
I don't think so. I think everyone's already tired. Justin is walking
It's the end of the second day already, so I mean, people are starting to go home.
I'm not.
But this has been busy.
I'm not shaved to deal with Decred right now. Like I didn't even know how to deal with Pinkcoin. I know it's a joke. You know it's a joke. Our followers know it's a joke. But it's like, but how do you debate these people? They think they're doing God's work by walking around with like pink bulls on their shirts and like everything in pink, and they're just like, I guess they're selling to people's like vanities, and it's like, well, charities need their money faster than in dollar terms. Like how do you argue that? Like, no, they don't.
And they tried to explain to me how they have millions of dollars and ready, set aside, staked, I guess, for actual investment into these things and helping out charities. But then you see how much it's paid out, and it's only paid out a few thousand. Like it's really strange. They tried to explain it to me over Twitter. I mean, you have to understand how complex their actual system is. They got proof of stake, proof of work, proof of something else.
And it's the same people like supporting these coins. It's like, I'm like, wow, like how many coins can you support that make no sense?
Well, the market,
for some people.
right now, the market's going to support a lot of this.
Well, you support what you're holding. I guess you can hold infinite amount of coins,
exactly.
And you'll support infinite amount of coins as long as you're holding them.
And as long as the space keeps going up, the bubble keeps inflating, there's going to be more and more coins held. And that's why we're going to have Jackson and Airbitz supporting all of these.
I don't understand why these guys think they have a better expertise at printing money than the Federal Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe.
It seems like everybody just wants to print their own token. I mean, there's very, very, very few legitimate cases for having your own token. And we've been trying to say this for a long time, but there's just the bubble continues to inflate. People keep printing their own tokens and thinking that it's okay because, well, it's got some utility in the network, and so we'll use that. Look, it's still my opinion. There's been only one actual use case for blockchain so far that's worked, that's global, that's actually almost went mainstream, and that's money, right? That's digital gold. That's what Bitcoin is doing, and there's a tail end of all sorts of currencies that try to go off of that, like Litecoin being the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and it's going to have to pop before people realize this kind of thing, and it's going to be another .com bubble, like you're saying, Tone, and it's going to be massive.
Do you want to talk Civic?
Sure, we can bring some Civic people on. Come on over, man.
Other side.
What's up?
We just saw Vinny the other day. I got some selfies with Vinny.
Awesome.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe you can come on and let me get the mic ready here.
Yeah, put the mic on the corner there. Well,
Maybe you can explain to us a bit about why you think Civic, why you guys think Civic needs a token.
well, I'll start with Vic. What do you do
Yeah,
at
please.
Civic because you're wearing a Civic lanyard
With the shapeshift
with
shirt.
the shapeshift shirt? So which one are you affiliated with?
I'm affiliated with nobody, and Peter Todd is my true north. No, but I'm head of ICO integrations at Civic, and this isn't an advisory firm or anything. It's simple authentication for Sybil attack resistance with a fair amount of
I'm
certainty.
sorry, let's back up here. Head of ICO integration at Civic. Why is Civic integrating ICOs, and what are they integrating ICOs to?
It's not integrating ICOs as in the way you're thinking of, but it's like a login button, right? So they have their process flow and we don't have anything to do with it, but it's just to make sure one person actually buys whatever the ICO wants one person to buy, not one person pretending to be 100 people buying 100 persons.
Okay, so someone registers with Civic, their identity,
Phone and email, yep.
phone and email.
So if you have many phones and many emails, you can.
You can register multiple identities.
Yes.
Right. And then you can
That's,
use
that's supposed to be the one thing that it's not trying to, that it's trying to
That's
prevent.
it. It's over.
Shit up.
No, but
this shit up.
no, but the thing is, it's a fair amount of certainty, right? It creates friction, and it's like we can't solve it completely, but just adding that there, it helps them, you know.
But you're creating an additional layer, right? Like above all the layers that we have already, like social security numbers and things like that. Is not Civic an additional layer in between those? I mean, I would love to be able to have control, of course, of my own identity with keys and stuff, but I think that's going to happen thanks to cryptography, you know, permeating more and more into the space thanks to Bitcoin. It's not going to be because of one company and Vinny saying, now you can own your identity.
Well, so let's take a step back here.
Okay.
The only place, no worries. I love all you guys. I'm a big fan of Core, you know, and Jimmy Song over there is the reason I'm so technical. So,
Do you think it's cool? Do you take your class?
no, just the articles. Been following them since the ASIC Boost articles. But anyway, so you do own your identity in the sense that you authorize where you share it with, and identity information, phone and email, are encrypted in the Civic app, and you can only access it with your biometrics.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
The ICO scams don't want to be scammed by fake people.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So how many idler ICOs are integrating Civic these days? Do you guys have a number?
We are not working with
I should've
anyone
took fake
yet,
people.
but as you saw, the 0x token sale is one that we helped with.
Okay.
And Doc AI as well. So
there's been a couple so far, but
Yes.
you're still beginning that process.
Exactly.
And you plan to have as many ICOs as possible be able to integrate Civic so that they can have more secure crowdfunding or more secure ICO token sales?
yes, just Sybil attack resistance, and then slowly to aggregate these identity attributes, because that's what we said we would do with the money that we use our tokens for.
So, do you guys get paid in some way for doing this? Like, how does what is Civic's best use case, and what is Civic's best means of making a profit?
How do you make money?
Well, I mean, before that, what is your most popular use case for Civic? Is it the ICO identity program?
No, we actually haven't charged anyone for it yet. And
Well, no, but is that the most popular use case of Civic, the ICO identity program?
So far.
no, ours was because you had to use ours to participate, and because the nature amount of people that participated. But we've been on WikiHow. Now you could log in to Prism with it. So I wouldn't say it's the best use case, but it's one of them.
So
Well, I mean, you have to define best or what metric. That
Most popular.
Yeah, so what's the
Most
most popular
popular.
use case for Civic right now that you guys are seeing?
I don't have access to that data, but I'd say it's probably Prism.
What's Prism?
It's Shapeshift's like portfolio, like where you give it ETH and you're exposed to other assets.
And who's holding those assets?
It's decentralized through Shapeshift.
You do own you.
I don't know what that means.
Well, you do have the private.
You should check it out.
You can back up. You can back up your Prism. You can back up your Prism, and you can back up the private key to your Prism to have all your assets and things like that. It's just a way to use Ethereum to hold multiple assets. But again, with wallets supporting multiple assets, you don't need Prism. It's just that they're trying to
Well,
make it easy.
I think we've like established that people don't want to have control of their private keys. I
Yeah.
mean, they will even let somebody else. But it's harder. Like the shittier the coin, the less of the wallet you have. Like there isn't that much. There aren't that many options for holding your. I don't know what's the
multiple tokens.
What's yesterday's ICO? Whatever it was yesterday, right? There aren't that many options for holding that token.
It's just exchanges these days, and that's what Prism was trying to do, is kind of try to alleviate some of that pressure from holding all of your tokens on exchange. I think, is that right?
Well, it's basically, I think the max was 10 Ether. I've not fully tried it out yet, but you give the Ether there, and then you could pick which coins you want in a
contract. What ICO programmed that?
I don't have all the answers to Universe Stone, and unfortunately I have to go to a Kings game, and I'll let you guys take it from here, but it's been a pleasure. You guys are the best.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on, man. But yeah, no, Prism, so Shapeshift is writing all of these ERC20 tokens, all the smart contracts that's holding all of these tokens together in a Prism.
Shapeshift is just doubling down.
Well, they got like 40 developers now. It's not a small number.
I mean, you got to use all that money somehow. I mean, it's coming in, right? I mean,
they certainly are making a lot of money. Although, I mean, they got to diversify, because I think, atomic swaps over Lightning and stuff, they're coming. So they got to do other stuff.
They see the writing on the wall, and they're really just trying to, I guess, double down on allowing you to hold multiple assets without having to rely on an exchange, because that's kind of our only way that we can hold multiple assets.
All right, so we sent Will Penguin to bring us.
Is that Jason King? You want to get Jason King?
We could, but no.
Yeah,
we literally sent Will to bring Brian Hoffman to us, and he's like standing there all by himself talking to him.
Will Penguin's having a conversation.
Maybe he's convincing him. I don't know.
Want me to go grab himself?
Brian Hoffman does not need to be convinced to speak on camera. I think that's been established for years.
He loves the camera.
No, if you go there, you're gonna lose both of you. That's kind of how this shit works.
We'll send our assistant.
You could get Jason. I don't know.
We could yell over there.
Jason King.
Is he working on something new now?
Huh?
He's working on something new, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's doing an ICO.
Jason. Well, he looks like he's pretty in depth to the conversation.
All right, never mind.
He's with
4 people.
Elena and a few
Yeah.
others.
All right. Anyway,
what do you want to talk about, Jimmy? Did we finish about the 2x hard fork?
Other than that, it will strengthen the entire network.
Because Bitcoin is anti-fragile.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is anti-fragile.
Yeah. I guess we could talk about my talk or whatever you're going to talk about to close out this conference.
Well, no, I was going to do my usual
You gotta get going soon, Tone. I know. If you're going to talk.
Yeah, no, I'll talk.
Hey, you got to close it out.
Let's thank the 354 live viewers. Then I guess,
we're at 350. We hit 500 earlier today.
No, it was a little bit higher.
No, I didn't get to go to Gold's Gym in Venice. I would love to go, but I've been here.
I gotta try to make it to the beach. I'm here for a few more days.
Oh God, the sunset is just so beautiful here. I forget how beautiful sunset is here in
we hope
Santa
that there's
Monica.
lights up there. Otherwise, when it gets dark, we're gonna be.
No, we're gonna cut the stream. There's gonna be some after parties. Oh, I think we got Decred. I don't know.
Are you gonna come on camera or no?
Yeah. It's been a long day. I don't know if I'm up for Decred. I'm actually not sure how it's gonna be any different than Pinkcoin or.
So
or
this is
any other
Tyler.
coin.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey,
Yeah,
Tyler, how are you?
good. How are you guys?
I think if you guys like put this like on somebody's shoulder, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So we'll stick that on
So
there.
like
It should
we
be good
have
for
right
both of you.
now, I think
Okay,
people
cool,
can
yeah.
hear.
So just don't
yeah.
move too fast, I guess.
Yeah.
Our volume's been good, so everything's good. Less planes now. So
We have
it's also
somebody
good.
eating food over there that's making
Yeah.
me absolutely.
Well, that's
hungry
that's
right
why I
now.
went over there and ate already. That's
Jimmy, that's why you're smarter than me.
All right, so go ahead, introduce yourself. What projects you're working on, and what led you into that project?
Sure. So yeah, I'm part of the Decred community. I'm a host of the YouTube show called Decred Assembly, where we interview various people right now. It's also supposed to be more of a community-driven place that people can discuss proposals for our platform. But yeah, that's
So more of a community manager, not a dev.
I'm more just a community member than anything.
And do you have any dev experience?
Yeah, I'm a developer.
You are a developer.
Yeah.
Okay. And what led you into Decred? Like, where did you start in the crypto space, and how did that progress?
Sure. So got into Bitcoin around 2012. Was really sort of I don't know. After the whole financial collapse, I really started investigating that there was an issue with how money is created. So this eventually led me to Bitcoin, and then I started seeing like second layer implementations being built on it, and I really discovered that like it could evolve and turn into so many different things that could change basically the financial and asset landscape for like everything.
And what changed that led you to believe that Bitcoin may not be able to achieve that? And
The famous question from Tony.
So I'm definitely not a maximalist. I think there's going to be multiple projects that succeed in this space, as we've seen so far.
I wouldn't. I hold off reservations on that, but okay.
Well, it depends on how you
depends on when you find success.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, started learning about Decred. It was kind of an unknown project, and then I really learned about the devs that built Decred. For all those that don't know, Decred is a
Bitcoin ecosystem using that. Like, I'm not like my dev days are so far behind me. I actually don't know what BTCD
All right,
is.
so BTCD is well, I contributed to
you
BTCD.
contributed to BTCD before.
Yeah, yeah. So I contributed like doing some elliptic curve stuff, but basically it's written in Go. It's a full node implementation. And in fact, all the Lightning devs, Lightning Labs, for example, they use BTCD to develop Lightning, the Lightning Network stuff. So Lalu and Elizabeth Stark and everybody.
So it's Bitcoin on a different code base.
Yeah, it's Bitcoin on
In a different language.
In a different language.
But are they interchangeable? Is it the same Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Moving between them.
It's using the same chain.
So
Okay.
it's kind of like there are many other implementations of Bitcoin.
Right. And what would you say
But they're all compatible with Core.
Yes. Yes.
So
completely.
what would you say the percentage of Bitcoin, I guess, reliant on that chain versus the percentage of Bitcoin reliant? I'm guessing there are more than one option here.
Yeah,
there's other languages, right?
I think Bitcoin from Purse is around BTCD, Bitcoin. But part of the strength of the Bitcoin network is that you have multiple implementations.
So what would you say, like the general percent breakdown of how much Bitcoin is reliant on each of these alternative code bases?
Well, it depends on what your full nodes. I would say it's like 90-something percent core, like 2% something, everything else, something like that.
So maybe 2% at best use Bitcoin D. Or BTCD. Is there a difference?
Well, the thing is, BTCD is also the basis for Lightning Network. All Lightning Labs uses BTCD.
As their implementation.
Right, but after they complete the Lightning Network infrastructure, wouldn't that be able to be rewritten onto those other Bitcoin code bases?
Hopefully. Well, yeah, I mean,
maybe, but I mean, like, wouldn't you want to use the one that was written by the protocol devs?
I don't know. That's actually a good question, because the protocol devs, because I know that the underlying layer is solid, because that's what 98% of the people are using. If you build a Lightning network on something that only 2% of the network uses, why would I trust using that Lightning channel if it's on top of a code base that only 2% of the world is using? I probably would stay away from Lightning.
Well, so the reason why, I think, is because they've done extensive testing on BTCD. They've gone through everything, and Bitcoin does the same thing with JJ does the same thing with Bitcoin.
That's why Bitcoin created, because they needed some kind of implementation while still compatible with Core, but the ability to add features as they want.
Yeah, and
to be able to achieve the goal they want.
I mean, they do extensive testing, unit testing, backwards testing, and all sorts of pathological scenarios. And having multiple implementations is a good thing. Everyone says that, right? Like
no. I'm okay with that.
Compatible with the main
Right.
implementation.
I'm okay with that, but again, I go back to what I just realized is that, well, why would I trust the Lightning Network built on something that only 2% of the nodes have? That's not exactly screaming decentralization to me or safety.
Well, again,
Well, I
like Jimmy
think,
said, they're doing testing.
But like if you have all of this decentralization and it all like funnels down into 2% of the nodes, that makes me nervous.
Well,
I think actually you can run it on either one. It's like modular enough that you can run it on whatever. I mean, we'd have to have some of the Lightning devs on to actually. Yeah. Maybe that might be something I could do on my show. I don't know. But
it's time to ask. All right. Okay. So from there, so these devs apparently built something great. They built BTC, Bitcoin D, BTCD. I'm not even sure. It's been a long day. All right. And then they decide, you know what? We need a new token.
Yeah, that's probably. I don't know if that's my conversation to have.
You're the Decred representative. Of course, it's the conversation you're supposed to have.
All right, fine. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. All right. So
that was before my time, but
how does Decred work? Is it a proof of stake? Is it a proof of work? When did it start? And what do you think is the distribution of that token?
So Decred started in February of 2016.
Okay, so you got about a year and a half in.
Yep. And the distribution is 60% proof of work, 30% proof of stake, and 10% goes to a community subsidy that allows for paying for marketing. It allows for paying for development. It allows for paying for anything that people want to propose on our platform. And
we're talking Decred, not Dash, right? Because this sounds vaguely familiar.
Yes, this is definitely Decred.
Okay. So, all right.
So 10% of every block reward goes to a community subsidy fund. 30% goes to stakeholders, and the stakeholders, what they're essentially doing is locking up their funds for up to 5 months. So their coins are not on exchange; they're actually actively going through a process of converting their coins into what we call tickets.
All right. Again, this sounds very Dash-like.
Well, it's involved in more of a continuous lottery, so it's not like a masternode system. So what's happening is the coins are still generated via proof of work, but they're actually stamped with a stamp of approval by the stakeholders via proof of stake.
No Instamine controversies in Decred, right? So at least that's
that I know,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
There was an airdrop though, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was an airdrop.
Okay, please explain that one.
So in order to kick off the protocol, you actually needed coins in users' hands to be able to verify and add, 5 votes to each block that gets added to the network. So,
so
you
don't know what
needed
that
an initial
means.
distribution of coins to jumpstart the network.
So
because it's not just
right. So you didn't do proof of work and then went to proof of stake. You wanted to kick off proof of work and proof of stake at the same time, and people needed some stake.
Right.
So how big was the airdrop?
I believe it was 840,000 tokens.
Out of how many?
21 million total.
They're doing same as Bitcoin.
Right. So 21 million total, and how much was airdrop?
840,000, I believe.
Okay, so 5%. A little less.
Something like that.
About 3 to 5%. Okay. And how did who got those coins?
So that was a little bit before my time too, but from my understanding, they were verified via different social accounts, and that's how they kind of tracked.
I think it was Bitcoin Talk, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bitcoin Talk. I think there were some other things like Twitter and Facebook, but I wasn't a part of the airdrop personally. I got into Decred later.
So anybody could apply for it,
Yeah.
And it was a lottery based on.
I know Fluffy got in on it.
So if 1,000 people applied, then you divide 840,000 by 1,000. If 20,000 people apply, you divide it by 20,000. The more applied, the more they would have gotten.
Yeah. Or
the more applied, the less they would have gotten.
Right. So the more people. Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay, and from there, all of these people were now earning stake.
No.
Only if you locked it up.
Opting into the stake.
If you locked it up for 5 months, you were earning stake.
Up to 5 months. It should roll over in about 28 days.
Now it sounds like Steemit. It's all like coming together.
Your templates are all these other altcoins, so it makes sense that it always.
Oh, I'll take one. Thank you. Just what I need. right before I go on stage,
Yeah,
which was supposed to start 3 minutes ago, but they're a little behind.
a little. They were 2 hours
Like
behind
2 hours
yesterday.
behind
2 hours?
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
thought it was only 30 minutes.
Wow.
I went
Alright,
2 hours later.
Like I don't know where to go from here. Like it's like I can go in any direction.
So what what
What
they've
makes it
essentially
unique?
built,
Right. So you
is,
got okay. So the one thing I keep hearing about Decred is your governance system.
Yeah, maybe you can explain.
I mean, because I can pick on the I pick
You know,
on
I know-
all the other stuff, like all the other stuff, the proof of stake stuff, the locking up stuff. I mean, I've abused that horse enough.
Yeah.
So let's
get into
go.
the
Let's get
governance.
into a new one.
Let's get into the governance.
Let's talk about governance and why Decred is so great with because of their governance.
Okay, so what Decred allows the community to do is the community of stakeholders, the hodlers, are the ones who make all the decisions. So essentially what's coming out now is a proposal system where people will be able to submit proposals that are uncensorable. We actually implemented our own version of open timestamps on top of Decred called DCR time.
Interesting. And did you work with Peter Todd at all on that?
I personally didn't contribute to it, but I know a lot of it was based off of Peter Todd. They actually tweeted and recognized Peter Todd for all his work on open timestamps, which led to DCR time.
Sorry to interrupt, Mike. So my computer is close to dying. We've been running on battery this whole time because we're outdoors. So in case it dies in the middle of the interview, that's what happens.
That's what happened.
We will be shy. This will be our last interview, and we will take it down.
So so the governance side of things allows the ability to have hard forks implemented and in an automated fashion. So
And you've done many hard forks already.
Now it sounds like Monero.
So we just had one that allowed us to implement a change to our staking difficulty algorithm. So ticket prices were jumping all over the place, and they actually rebuilt the algorithm based on real data that they collected from real ticket purchase buying that allowed tickets to be bought in a more stable fashion, which should significantly help more adoption and also help control our hash rates a little bit better.
But you get to essentially vote on new features or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you know, like let's say they wanted to debate whether or not to implement SegWit on top of Decred. So what would happen was there would be a vote, so everybody would upgrade to the next release, and the code for SegWit would actually be dormant inside that release. And so if the vote activates, then the protocol forks. So and it's about a 3-month rollover period. It takes about a month to upgrade and get everybody on the new node on the new software. And then we have about a month voting period, which is an entire cycle of tickets, about 41,000. And then there's a lock-in period of about 1 month. And after the lock-in period, the code activates. And what that does, because the stakeholders are all saying we're going this way, it reduces the ability for the minority chain to stay alive. So it becomes economically inhibitive to support the minority chain.
So it forces you to move on
Right.
to the newest chain.
Exactly.
All right. So what? Man, it's just so much there.
It's getting more. These coins are getting more complex because.
I think we're gonna get to a point where so what top 10 coins are not features of a top 10 coin not in Decred? Because so far,
what's unique to Decred?
They have a blockchain.
No one else is doing
I want to challenge the concept
automated
that it becomes the concept that it becomes I guess economically inferior to support a minority fork, right? But what if the minority?
Charlie Lee actually wrote a paper, you know,
I think it was his idea that you guys implemented, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
well, actually, the original idea came from MC2, which was originally proposed by one of the Monero founders, Taco Time.
Oh, okay.
See Monero, I knew I knew it. That's why I said it.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Okay, we're about to run out of battery.
Just for my last challenge, we're not going to get much into it, but if there was a minority fork, why can't they just change the distribution of proof of stake versus proof of work, kind of like Bcash did, to make it more viable and make it supported? Like you have all these hard forks. Sooner or later, someone's going to come up with a new magic formula to improve on your magic formula that will make it more meaningful
to
the
stakeholders have to approve it.
Remember, all the hard forks in Decred require that. So you could in theory, I guess, take out that.
Then it's going to have to get written by somebody. And if the devs don't want to build it, then no one's going to build it. But, you know, then it goes up for vote. And if the stakeholders want it, they get it.
All right,
That's,
I think we have to leave it there. I do want to close out the show because the battery already notified us.
but maybe maybe you would be interested in having like somebody like our lead dev,
Yeah, well,
Dave
It's a top tier altcoin. So, I
hey,
mean,
thanks for coming
Thanks,
on.
Tyler.
Thanks so
Let's
much,
just
man.
close
Really
out the
appreciate
show. Once again, we were streaming live. It's freezing now.
yeah, it's really
I thought
cold.
I was in California.
Dude, I'm freezing. My
Dude,
ass
you're
off.
you're a New Yorker. You're so soft. What the heck?
I got
I'm from Austin. I can handle this.
I'm cold. I'm with Tone.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
what-
It's freezing, man. I see people with sweatshirts on that are much smarter than us.
I know. Anyway, we're here at BlockCon. I think I'm already late for my presentation. I need to get in there. I'm gonna go speak.
Yeah, they gotta put on makeup.
And yeah,
Tone's
they
got-
made me a wig.
Hey, they put makeup on me yesterday. So,
Really?
Did they really?
Yeah. There's a makeup artist in there. They want to make sure.
All right.
That's
No,
amazing.
no, no.
Anyway, we do
Tone's
have to
got to get
go.
some makeup.
Hey, thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you for watching us earlier. I have my all-day seminar tomorrow. I will not be tweeting. I will not be doing any videos.
And I have
there's
my
a lot
seminar
of work
too,
to
so.
do. He's got a seminar also. So we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I
But
leave tomorrow as well.
We
so.
will continue to bring you the best content. And thank you for watching, guys, and see you all in the next one.
Thanks, guys. See you later.